All right, happy New Year. And let's jump into this. My name is Nick B, and let's jump into the first futures overview for the year. So, starting off with the calendar for X Factory, we have Wednesday, really the news comes up ISM manufacturing PMI, FOMC meeting minutes at 2 p.m. EST. Thursday, we have ADP non farm employment change and unemployment claims. Friday, we have NFP and ISM PMI at 10 a.m. NFP will be at 8:30 a.m. Well, the first 2 weeks of the year, usually, I'll be honest, I kind of take it easy. I don't really go into much. So we'll break down the few levels that we have in mind, and this is going to be strictly we're looking for a direction. So let me get rid of this and let me share. Oops, let me share my screen here. Okay, so let's start off with ES. Let's pull this up on the 3-year daily. Let's zoom out a bit. All right, so actually before I even dive in on that, I want to bring up something else. For the last, let's blow it up, I guess, 5 years. And let's check in with the beginning of the year. Notice at the beginning of the year, we get a bit of a push, right? And then it'll come February, roughly into the end of the first quarter, you tend to see some sell-offs. This was COVID, I believe. Is this 40? Yeah, wait, 2019. Yeah, this was the COVID sell-off. And then we have 2020 of January. Well, that we kind of got a bit of a push up here, and then February came around, and we had a nice healthy pullback, and then continued on higher. If I blow this up a little bit more, let me go even 10 years. I've just been kind of when I was looking at the charts, I've been seeing a bit of a reoccurrence. For example, 2017, we had a push towards January and then into February. Basically, the first quarter, you get a nice pullback and then the market kind of unfolds. You have 2018 here. We started off with a bit of a push here. Let's see, what was this? December? No. January. Okay, so here we didn't quite see, yeah, we didn't see really a nasty pullback or sell off in 2018. Uh, let's see what 2019 looked like. 2019 we got oh yeah, that was that COVID year. Let's see a little bit back, maybe even 2016. No, no, you don't see it here. 2015, I mean, yeah, you got a bit of a push and then a sell-off. But my point is, I was just thinking, what if possibly, because we've had quite a push over here on both ES and NQ, what if into the first quarter of 2024, we maybe see a nice boost into the first month, maybe second month, and then possibly expect a pullback. I think a pullback once we reach targets of 48.50 is, healthy. Even if we come down to, conservatively, I would say if we even revisit 46.30, that would be a healthy pullback. That would be my conservative target to the downside in Q1. Again, I'm talking in terms of a little bit long term, towards the end of the first quarter, because, you have this push basically starting from October 27th of 2023. We had this push continue up and up and up and up. At some point, possibly we need to see a pullback also to retest some supports to solidify them to show that we can continue the trend higher. Conservatively, again, for ES, I would target 46.30 to the downside. And then aggressively, if I had to say, I would say even possibly 4,500 would be that pullback area before we kind of bounce off of it. Now, if 4,500 ends up breaking, we have room to test, the previous lower highs of 44. What is this? 44.30, 44.40, I remember roughly. And then below 44.30, 44.40, our focus is probably going to start coming down to 4400. Below that, we could look at 43.50. We could look at 42.37, but that's extreme. I think that is absolutely extreme. I think, at most 4500 we come down and then we bounce out of there and keep going. In terms of direction, and again, I'll take a look at NQ as well and kind of break down what my quarterly downside pullback targets are. But in terms of direction, I only have two levels plotted, and I really don't need to go too heavy into it. These are strictly kind of directional levels. We have 47.40, which is essentially what's holding up this move right here to the upside. This is the channel we're in. It's really 47.40 and 48.41 48.50 until we break that. And again, I want to see what we do around 48.50, which is our first target to the upside. But if we want like direction, if we want to see a real move, I guess we'll call it a signal worthy move, I would expect, 47.40 to break down, and then we can take a look at targeting, 46.30, 4600 to the downside. That's one play. The other play is if we happen to, break above 48.50 and hold above it, I'm not opposed to targeting 4900 to the upside on ES either. But what we have going on here, at least the first 2 weeks, price action always has to kind of digest at the beginning of the year. We have our previous all time highs over at 48.08. I mean, as long as we hold up that level, I don't see why we can't continue up higher. But again, just keeping in mind, it's possible that into that first quarter, maybe February, maybe mid February, maybe March, maybe we see that pullback. And again, I think that's totally healthy. We know that, pullbacks occur on a yearly basis, at least once or twice, corrections at least once. So let's see kind of how that unfolds. While we kind of hang out in this area, again, I'm not really trigger finger happy on executing much. As long as we're above 48.08, I mean, that's the base for us to kind of keep holding up and going higher. If we break below that, it gives us room to come down towards 47.40, which is the base support, kind of what's holding up this move. Everything here in between, very difficult to time and try to kind of break down into channels. It's certainly doable, but we don't want to, we don't want to be excessive with it. We don't want to go too crazy. So the next, I guess, line of resistance is, 48.30. If we can get above that, that should give us room to 48.40. But I don't want to go into that too much. We're just talking in terms of kind of the direction to expect, at least into the first quarter of the year. So that's what I see with ES. Moving on to NQ, and I'll just cover these two. So with NQ, let's blow this up on 3-year. And we have our all-time high right here at 16,767. Mind you, let me change the color of it. I use yellow kind of to tell me, hey, this is going to be kind of a directional breakdown or breakout. So if 16,767 breaks down, we can start taking a look at, the downside previous supports. Definitely I'll be eyeing, 16,450 to the downside first. And in terms of, that pullback talk that we had on ES, my first conservative, target to the downside would definitely be 16,000, 1650. And aggressively to the downside, I would say, it's very possible we even see a pullback down to 15,500. That I think that would be a fair enough pullback for price to kind of pick up some bids and get a nice little reset to get a continuation to go higher. When that happens, if that happens, we'll go from there. I'm looking at this on a more bigger time frame than usual. Now, in terms of upside, if we do get back above, 17,165, I would say, man, you would have to play it by ear. I mean, I would just kind of shimmy up NQ by 100-point increments because it likes to swing a little bit heavier than ES. ES likes to move in 20-point increments intraday, but I feel like 4900 is that fair psychological resistance level after we get above 4850, if we can even get above that level and hold it. So for NQ, I would say at least the first target is let's see what we do if and when we get to 17,200. If we can manage to get above 17,200, I would, personally, I think I would play by 100-point years. Let's see if we can make it to 17.3. But the question is going to remain, and at least the one that looms in the back of my mind, is how long can we keep up kind of this push before we get a nice healthy pullback? And I think that's kind of what's needed, at least into the first quarter of 2024. So we'll see what we get. Again, that breakdown level for me, where in terms of direction, where we're gonna make that leg lower, is going to be 16,767. Below that, we can start looking at 16.5. Ultimately, I'll be looking at 16,450. Below 16,450, I'm eyeing 16,200. Below 16,200, I'm looking at 1650, 16,000 area support. Now, if we break this down on the intraday, let's go on the 4 hour. I have a level here in yellow, and that was the previous all-time high of 17,073. We are currently below it. There's one of two things that's playing out. We're either retesting this breakdown from, the last Friday. We're retesting this breakdown and we're going to continue spilling lower towards supports of 16,767, or we peak back above 1773, we make our way up towards 17, I would say 17,130, and then above 17,130, let's see if we can get to 17,165 and go from there. Let me just remove that drawing there. So I'm going to leave 1773 alone, and I guess 17,165, I'll place an alert there if we get there. I'll do that for ES as well right now. So we have that at or above. Let me place one over here at 16,767. And then for ES, I'm going to go over here and I'll place my alert. We could do 4840. That's a fair level. If we start getting a peak above that, maybe we got some juice to see 4850. Okay, and let's see. This is that intraday. Well, this was the previous all-time high, 4808.25. I'm going to leave this alone since we're holding up above it. And again, it doesn't mean anything if we break down below it. Just means we may revisit, the support towards 4740. But truly, the breakdown is going to be from that previous all-time high of 4740. If that breaks down, we can start taking a look at 4700 easily, and then working our way towards 4630, ultimately being that target to the downside. Okay, so at or below, perfect. So that's all she wrote. I mean, just wanted to cover these two tickers briefly. Again, I don't expect too much out of the first 2 weeks of January. Let's see how we open it tomorrow. Let's see how kind of the price action unfolds, and we'll take it from there. Other than that, that is all she wrote. Thanks for joining. I hope you have a solid, prosperous, and a very fruitful and steady growing 2024 ahead. Let's get it, guys. Cheers.